Welcome to the Pro Aging Podcast. I'm Steve Gurney, founder of the Positive Aging community. We're thrilled to have you join us for interactive discussions with pioneers and thought leaders on a wide variety of topics related to aging and longevity. These insightful discussions and the Positive Aging SourceBook are brought to you thanks to the support from our Positive Aging community champions. Visit proaging.com to connect with them and discover hundreds of valuable other resources. We're excited to have you with us today, so let's jump into an engaging Positive Aging live and interactive discussion. 1. All right, folks, I'm really excited today to have Joyce Kelly with me, who we'll learn a little bit about how Joyce and I's paths crossed, but all I can say is I am so excited to talk to her because I think that her story can be inspirational to many folks out there. And so Joyce, first off, thanks for taking the time to chat with me today. Before we dive into the conversation, let's get to know just a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, my name is Joyce Kelly. You know that. It's been very handy because another one of my hobbies is genealogy. And so whenever I talk to Irish folks, they say, oh, what's your name? And I say Joyce Kelly. And, so anyway, so this is a different setting. But I must say, in the Irish genealogical world, my name is pretty hot. So my husband and I live in Silver Spring. And for the purposes of this conversation, probably the most important things to say are that, number one, I have a PhD in health services research. And I'm not saying that to, brag or intimidate or anything like that, but that researching life plan communities was pretty easy for me because I was just able to apply the regular research protocols and programs that I've used most of my life. But it is something that anyone can do. And the second thing that I think is interesting is that my husband and I are not at all on the same page regarding this. And I should say we've been married for 50 years and we've weathered a lot of issues. And so I'm sure we'll weather this issue. But I would like to move into a local life plan community. And by local, I mean something between maybe Gaithersburg and DC, including Bethesda, Silver Spring, Wheaton, et cetera. We happen to live in Silver Spring. So I'd like to stay local because we've lived here for about 45 years. My husband does not want to leave our house. Mm-hmm. We have a big piece of property. We're overlooking the northwest branch of the Anacostia. We're surrounded by forest, and he sees no reason to leave. I'm ready to leave in 3 to 5 years. So he has generously agreed that it's fine with him if I'm out hunting, if I'm out looking, visiting. I visited 8 life plan communities. That's fine with him. He even was supportive of my hosting a meeting here in the house on healthy aging in place. So he's very supportive, but he wants to, as he puts it, go out feet first. So that's something that just will be resolved over time.
Yeah. And I tell you, I've been doing this for 35 years and I've talked to hundreds of couples and individuals. And this sounds very typical to most couples that I talk to. So let's dive into, I'm glad you brought up this meeting because folks, as many of you know, I have been publishing this resource guide in the Mid-Atlantic area called the Positive Aging SourceBook. And Joyce sent a request to have, there it is, about 50 copies of it sent to her. I get these requests all the time, but they're normally from churches or organizations, or there's some kind of health expo or fair. But Joyce, in her message, said, I'm hosting an event in my home. And I was like, boy, that's kind of interesting. And she needs 50 copies. Maybe she's taking some to her faith organization or what have you. Well, then you reached out again and said you needed more. And I said, well, hey, how did the thing at your home do? And she sent pictures, folks, and she posted a lot of people on this topic of healthy aging. So Joyce, I was intrigued. I said, gosh, you know, why were you doing this, and what was the catalyst of this, and tell me what went on at that event, because I think this could be inspirational to others that might be in the same boat as you.
Sure. The genesis was pretty simple. I'm now 81, and when I turned 80, I started thinking about what are the life plan choices for my husband and I. We happen not to have children, in our case, bad luck, but like some other difficulties, we've overcome that. And so the two of us need to, kind of figure out for ourselves what we want to do. And I thought that maybe attending these open houses that the large life plan communities host about once a month. Most large communities have an open house, and you can find them on the web, under resources or events. And I thought, gee, maybe I'll go to some of those, collect some information, and begin to understand what the options are in terms of moving to a community versus aging in place. And I should say, in terms of aging in place, we're already aging in place. I'm 81, so this is
Mhm.
it. But it's nothing special because we're pretty much living the same way we lived before we retired. I mean, we're doing our own garden work, we do all our own cooking. A neighborhood teenager comes and helps us with a few things, but basically, we don't have any medical or social help at all because we don't need it. But that
Right now,
probably
right
won't be
now.
true 10 years from now. So I'm
Mhm.
kind of thinking in advance. And so what happened is once I had the idea, I identified large communities because I just thought they would have more opportunities in terms of clubs and amenities and services. So I identified some large communities near our house that I'd heard some good things about. And I have belonged for more than 30 years to a women's group. And so I happened to mention we meet monthly, I happened to mention that I had made an appointment to go to a life plan community to an open house. And every woman in my group said they wanted to join me. And that had never occurred to me ever. That I
Wow.
thought I was telling them what I'm doing. I'll report back. I'll let you know what I find out. But that's not what happened at all. And so they all came. So the organizers were kind of surprised. I think they said, gee, we've never hosted a group like this. But since then, with these women, I've been to 7 other communities. So we visited 8 life plan communities that are within probably 15 miles of my house.
Holy cow,
And
this is
I've
great.
never gone with fewer than 2 friends. And usually it's been 3 or 4. And the thing I realized is this topic is scary, and people are avoiding it. And I learned that, and I'll talk a little bit more in a minute about the event I hosted at my house. But I learned that because one of the speakers at this event polled the audience and asked, uh, if you think you ought to be taking action, but you're not, what's holding you back? And the most common response was fear. I'm afraid to do it. I'm afraid to do it by myself. It's like some people, I don't want to go to the doctor because I don't want to get bad news. And
Hmm.
so people said they're afraid. And what I realized is by kind of banding together with a group of friends, we could transform that fear into curiosity. And so that has been kind of what it's all been about, is harnessing that fear, working together with friends, seeing what's available, helping each other, and being curious, what's out there and what might work for us.
What a great idea. I really commend you. Now, how long ago how long ago was this first visit that you made? Like
The
what?
it actually just occurred about 6 months ago. I tend to be a rather intense person, and there's some things about that's great. There's other things about it that's not so great, believe me. And so I've kind of compressed a lot of activity into a short time. So this has all occurred over the last 6 months,
This is
basically.
amazing. Okay, so I love the concept, and this is definitely something that other people can replicate. I love it, and it is taking something fearful, doing it as a group, makes it more fun,
Right.
gives you somebody to bounce ideas off of. I think it also, in the case that you illustrated, you may not have a partner or a family member that supports
Right.
this what you're researching, and now you've got people that are also curious and that are your compatriots in learning more about these options. So now I'm intrigued because I saw these photos and I was blown away at how many people you had in your house. So let's talk about that meeting that you conducted and the fact that you got a bunch of people in there. It's shocking because this is a topic people don't like to talk about.
Right. And that happened. It kind of spontaneously grew from, this kind of grassroots, starting with my women's group, which is a bit fewer than a dozen people. And then I'm in two different book clubs in my neighborhood, the Woodmore neighborhood of Silver Spring. So that was another couple of dozen people. And then I obviously have other friends. I've lived here for over 40 years. So neighbors and other close friends, former colleagues from working. I worked for the Public Health Service, so former colleagues from there. And then I put a note on the listserv, and I made it very clear, this was going to be kind of a working session. So if you're looking for your folks or for yourself right now, come. But this isn't sort of something you know, to dabble in. I didn't want a bunch of people to come and then say, oh no, I didn't know
Yeah.
this is it, and then walk out the door because I put
Hmm.
it on the listserv and there's like 300 families on the listserv. So a few families responded who in fact were looking for their parents or for themselves. And one thing that became obvious is in several instances, younger friends of mine are looking for their mothers who are widows and don't have a lot of money. And
Hmm.
so they don't have the choice of a life plan community.
Hmm.
These life plan communities are extremely expensive. And most of what we sell our house for, which is a wonderful house in Silver Spring, is going to go into paying an entrance fee at a life plan community. And then the monthly fees are like $6,000 a month. They're lower if you're willing to live in a smaller place, a studio or a one bedroom. But my husband said he's not willing
Yeah.
to leave this home he'll downsize. He won't downsize that much. So
Hmm.
that's a huge obstacle. And so folks are anxious about aging in place for their mothers because their mothers can't afford a life plan community. And if the kids pool their resources, they still don't have enough money for a
Hmm.
life plan community. And your book addresses
Some
aging at
other
home
choices.
as much as it addresses the communities.
Hmm.
So I invited those people to come. So I invited 55 people and 40
Hmm.
people came. So we moved a lot of furniture out of our living room and dining room. So we had a big open space and a bunch of folding chairs. And 15 of the people that I invited weren't able to come, but they asked me to do another session, a little mini session that would pull together the information. Each of the speakers from the communities, the resident speakers, they weren't sales staff. So it was comfortable for people hearing from a resident, not from someone trying to sell.
Okay, wait a second. Okay, this is amazing. So, you actually had some residents from from different communities come to your home to speak.
Right. And it was kind of funny. Most of these large life plan communities have someone called resident ambassadors. And
Hmm.
these resident ambassadors attend the open houses. So when a community has an open house, maybe they have a dozen tables with 6 people at each table. Every table will have a resident ambassador. So you have a chance to communicate with someone who has lived there for months or years or whatever. And some of them joked that they had never talked about their own community in front of people who lived in other communities. And so
Ah,
people started making kind of a joke of that. One person was from a very large community, Riderwood, which has like 2,000 residents. And basically he made a joke of it and he says, big is best. I mean, if you're looking around, you really want something big because it's going to offer you a lot. And then someone was from a very small community, Maplewood Park Place, over in Bethesda, and a friend of mine, and she said, small is cozy, that everybody knows you, you know all the people. So people kind of made a joke of the fact that it was a little bit odd, having people from different communities, but
I
everyone
love it.
agreed the whole purpose was so that every person sitting in the audience could understand the distinctions between a big place where you may not know, you're not going to know everybody, but it offers you 250 clubs versus a small place where you're going to know everybody.
So you're bringing something up that I love to talk about. Oftentimes, when I talk about this choice, I tell people, let's pretend that you're not looking for a retirement community or an old folks home, but you're choosing the next college that you're going to go to.
Right.
And as we know, some people, when they graduated from high school, preferred to go to a top university with 30,000 students, where others chose to go to a 200 student
Right.
liberal arts college. It's all personal preference. But what I love, something that you brought up that I absolutely love, is that the unlike high schools and colleges where we oftentimes we have a football game where you get to meet students at other schools, or you come home on Thanksgiving and everybody's talking about the school that they go to and how that's different. You don't give sort of that inner community opportunity for people living in different communities to connect with each other. And you just stumbled into this by accident in your
Right.
living room. This is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was also, Steve, it was very comfortable. Only one of the four people in advance said that he was worried because he felt that his community was so superior to anything else. He didn't know how to talk about it without, making people feel bad. And so I said, "Oh, I'm sure you'll figure it out." And he was one of the people, he just started telling jokes. He lightened the atmosphere so that people from different communities could describe what their community has to offer.
And let's go back to that college analogy and let's pretend that this guy's senior living community represents Harvard University or one of the Ivy Leagues. And you're on a panel with, you're the only one from an Ivy League school, and you got a panel of community colleges and state schools and junior colleges that you can see where maybe somebody would think that way. But ultimately, I bet you when the other students started talking, this guy's perspective was, wow, those are great communities for that person and many people. I just don't happen to live there and I didn't choose to go there.
Yeah, it was I mean, maybe it wasn't exactly like that, Steve, but the point was it was very comfortable. And
Mhm.
and people told jokes and felt at ease and I think everybody in the audience understood, this is for you. Just, soak it up, learn what you can. And all these places have open houses frequently. And you don't have to organize anything. You can just go to these open houses and learn.
Wow. So now I'm curious, like you've been doing this for 6 months and you clearly impacted dozens of people in your personal circle. And has anybody pulled the trigger in that short-term period that you know of since you've started bringing this up? It's like, oh, Joyce, I'm so glad you did this. I went on that tour and I'm going to move to this place or put down a deposit or anything like that.
I would say, including myself, uh, probably four or five of us are now on wait lists. And it really depends. If you're talking about a community, it depends on what configuration you want in that community and how common it is. And what the sales staff and all the communities I'm talking to are telling me is that the larger and more expensive places are less common and more sought after. And I think that's because of, luckily for us, we're of that generation where we're not having a hard time, that recent college graduates and some others are having. So Paul and I are looking for a larger place, with the patio, et cetera. And we're on 2 wait lists. And what I've been told is the wait for us to get a place is probably 5 to 7 years.
Okay. Wow.
And my other friends, my single friends who are looking for maybe 1 bedroom, some of them have been told you don't even have to get on a wait list, that they come up often enough that you can wait. But in one of my book clubs, 3 of the women have moved into life plan communities just this year. One couple moved into Riderwood, one couple moved into Maplewood Park Place, and another moved into a community, I don't remember the name, but it's just outside Baltimore.
I love it. And you brought up your single friends, okay? And I want to kind of dive into that a little bit because the number one topic on our positive aging community platform is solo aging. And one of the things that in talking to so many solo agers, um, the ones that are very heels in the sand, just like your husband, I'm gonna stand here in this house and you're gonna have to drag me out kicking and screaming. When I often have conversations with them, because they're saying that to me while they're also saying, who's gonna get me to the doctor's appointment if I need to? I've got age in place, but I'm concerned that I don't have a network. And I often remind them that if you if you're willing to change your address through a supportive community, all of your solo aging problems would go out the window because now you have people around you and you don't need to worry about that. Are you hearing that from some of your single friends?
What I'm hearing from my single friends, and I should say I have a lot, I think partly because Paul and I don't have kids, and also because I'm in, these different activities that are, just, I don't know, they attract single women. So I'd say maybe 25% of my close friends are single. And the thing they're mainly worried about is the transition from where they are now, where they're comfortable, whatever it is, a townhouse that they own, to trying to find a place to live and actually make the move by themselves. When they moved into wherever they are now, they were in their 30s. And now, like me, they're 80. And that just seems overwhelming. And so I actually have a list of 4 or 5 of those friends that as I go around to different places, I ask if they want to come. I mean, I know them well enough. This place would be very good for you because it's not too big. You're not going to have to walk a lot, whatever it might be, high level culture, whatever that particular friend would be attracted to. Another friend really wants to stay in the Rockville area. And so what would be good for her in the Rockville area? So it's more feeling a bit overwhelmed by doing this as a single. They're comfortable, they're happy, they like where they are, and they can't imagine uprooting all of that alone and moving somewhere.
Yeah. And but man, I mean, Joyce, I am just so inspired by what you've done and what you're doing. And the fact is that this is intimidating. It's scary. It's age segregated. I mean, we're all living in neighborhoods where all ages live together, and all of a sudden you're saying I got to uproot from this townhouse that I bought 50 years ago to but the fact that you're bringing this community together and that you're there as an individual to provide support and encouragement and the potential that a lot of these friends may not have to move in alone anymore because they can collaborate and
Right.
and they may move into a place with familiar people now. I love it. I love it. And uh so is there anything that we've talked about? We've talked about a lot, and I could talk to you for hours, but is there anything that you'd really that you haven't had a chance to share with our community that you'd like to share?
I think it's just I'm looking at my notes here, Steve, and I think it's just the point that I made earlier that just kind of occurred to me that this is that visiting these life plan communities, reading your book, studying what we can about aging at home, what does it take to age at home, that all of this, the meetings at my house, they provide opportunities to replace fear with curiosity. I
Mhm.
think that's the bottom line. That
Yeah.
people, myself, my husband, all of us are, kind of paralyzed by fear. It's the whole, the scary image of moving into an old age home,
Hmm.
as our, final resting place.
Yeah.
And seeing this learning process as being an opportunity, not something to avoid and be afraid of.
And to synthesize your panel members, I mean, so was the let's assume that all the panel members and people that you've spoken to that have made this transition into a life plan community um are that everybody's a little bit scared and hesitant about making this move. But those residents that you have had, what was the message that they were sharing with your audience at your event?
Well, that's easy. As I mentioned, I've been to 8 life plan communities. I've been to one of them 7 times. So I'm really getting to know, this whole sector of the world. And every time I go and look around, meeting people in the community garden, having a coffee in the bistro, whatever, just checking the places out, everybody says, don't delay, move now,
Mhm.
because you want to be young enough and energetic enough to do this, young enough and energetic enough to work in the community garden, to work out in the swimming pool, the gym, to go to the musical events. Don't wait. And so
Mhm.
that kind of adds to the sense of tension for me with my husband. My thought
Mhm.
is, wow, I'm now 81. I mean, how
Mhm.
much longer do I want to risk it? And
Mhm.
Paul's saying too soon, too soon. But
Mhm.
that it's universal. I mean, I've probably talked to 100 residents in these different
Mhm.
communities, and
Yeah.
no one has ever said, I moved too soon.
Mhm.
In fact, the common call is do it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, Joyce, I am so inspired, and I hope that this interview and getting other people out there that have networks, whether it's one or two friends or a book club and a garden club like you had, coming together is a great solution to, to investigate so that, because one thing that I know about everybody that they uh outside and including if you just think back when you were a teenager, nobody likes to be told what to do or that you've got to go here or do this. And we've risen in the world living decades where we became the people that sort of managed staff and had families and told people what to do. And the solution in this category here, to have somebody not telling you what to do, is to get out there and get curious and map your plan out yourself. And now it's your idea, not somebody else's idea,
Right,
or
right,
being forced because
right.
of a healthcare diagnosis.
Exactly. Yeah,
Man.
exactly. That's a really good way to put it, Steve. Yeah. I mean, we're all in charge of our own lives, right?
Yep.
And we're doing the best we can, and we're trying to help each other.
I love it. Well, this will not be the last time we talk because I know this is going to generate a lot of questions and interest, but also I'm interested in hearing the journey of you and your friend group here on the decisions they're making and things that they're doing. So let's check in from time to time. And Joyce, again, thank you so much for what you're doing. And then also willing to share it with our community.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.